Okay, pop quiz. What's the most terrifying predator of the Jurassic period? T-Rex, nope, wrong era. Allosaurus, getting warmer, but no. The correct answer is a flea. Wait, hold up. Did I just say a flea? Yeah, but not the tiny microscopic jerks that make your dog miserable. I'm talking about something the size of your pinky finger, with a mouth like a medieval torture device, that crawled onto sleeping dinosaurs and drilled into their flesh like an oil rig tapping into hell itself. Meet Pseudopulex. The name literally means fake flea. And buddy, that name is doing a lot of heavy lifting because this thing redefined what it means to be a parasite. So let's talk about what we are dealing with here. Pseudopulex fossils were first discovered in the Zhuongshan Formation in China Jurassic period about 165 million years ago. And when paleontologists first saw these things, they had to double-check their notes because what the hell? This insect was up to 22.8 millimeters long. That's almost a full inch. Now I know that does not sound impressive until you remember that a normal flea, the kind terrorizing your pets right now, is about 2 millimeters. Pseudopulex was 10 times bigger. Some estimates say 50 times heavier. This is the difference between a house cat and a Bengal tiger. But size, that's just the opening act. Let's talk about the body plan. Pseudopulex was flat. Not side-to-side flat, like modern fleas that slip between hairs like they are navigating a forest. No, this thing was flat like a bedbug or a tick squashed from top to bottom. Built like a biological pancake designed to hug contours and not get scraped off. And it was armored. The entire body was covered in stiff bristles and setae think of porcupine quills, but microscopic and pointing backward. This was not decoration. This was engineering. Once this thing latched onto you, brushing it off would be like trying to remove Velcro with your bare hands. Now the legs. Pseudopulex had long, spindly legs with massive curved claws at the ends. These claws could reach over scales. Imagine trying to grab a basketball with your fingernails. That's the mechanical advantage we are talking about. It did not need to find gaps in armor. It just hooked over the top and held on. But here's where it gets wild. Modern fleas. They jump. That's their whole thing. Fleas have these insane hydraulic back legs that let them launch themselves 200 times their body length. It's one of the most impressive feats of biomechanics in the animal kingdom. Pseudopulex could not jump. Not a little bit. Not even close. It had zero adaptations for jumping. Its back legs were just legs. Long, grabby, spiky legs, but not spring-loaded death rockets. Which means this absolute unit of a parasite had to walk onto its victims. Let that sink in. A flea. That's CA, not jump. It's like finding out a bird that does not fly, except way more unsettling, because this thing still managed to terrorize the largest land animals in history. Now, let's talk about the business end of this nightmare, the mouth. Pseudopulex had a proboscis, a piercing, sucking mouth part that was absurdly oversized. In the species P. magnus, the mouth apparatus was more than 1/5 the length of its entire body. Proportionally, that's like if your tongue was as long as your arm. Except, instead of a tongue, it's a serrated syringe. One paleontologist described it perfectly. It looks like a syringe when you go to the doctor to get a shot. Except this syringe had 2 rows of sharp serrated teeth running down the sides, formed like a saw. When Pseudopulex bit down, it did not just puncture, it sawed its way through skin. And according to researcher Huang Diying, if one of these things bit you, quote, it would have felt about like a hypodermic needle going in. Except, hypodermic needles are sterile, controlled, and administered by professionals. This was a medieval drill bit operated by a bug that learned cruelty from the Jurassic food chain. Now here's the kicker. We have a fossilized specimen, Pseudopulex tanlin, where you can literally see its last meal. The abdomen is distended, swollen with blood. The gut is engorged. Scientists estimated it consumed about 0.02 milliliters of blood in that final feeding. Wait, you're thinking, that's not that much. Oh, but it is. Because modern fleas, they sip about 0.001 milliliters per feeding. Pseudopulex drank 15 times more in a single sitting. This thing was not snacking. It was guzzling. Imagine you are a 30-ton sauropod, peacefully napping in the shade, and this armored horror show crawls onto your belly drills through your hide with a serrated straw and starts chugging your blood like it's at an all-you-can-eat buffet. Nature really said choose violence, and Pseudopulex said bet. All right, Let's do some paleo-CSI. Let's reconstruct how this thing actually hunted. It's nighttime in the mid-Jurassic. The air is thick, humid smells like rotting vegetation and dinosaur dung. Somewhere in the underbrush, a small feathered dinosaur, maybe a Psittacosaurus, maybe a juvenile theropod, has bedded down for the night. And in the leaf litter, something stirs. Pseudopulex is on the move. It's not fast, it's a walker, not a jumper, but it's patient. It scuttles across the forest floor, claws clicking softly against bark and stone. Its flattened body slips under ferns between roots. It detects warmth, carbon dioxide, the biomarkers of a sleeping animal. Target acquired. Now here's where that body plan pays off. Pseudopulex approaches the dinosaur from below, going for the soft underbelly where scales are thinner and feathers are sparse. Those long curved claws hook over individual scales, giving it purchase. The backward-facing bristles act like ratchets, preventing any backslide. It climbs, slowly, methodically. The dinosaur does not even twitch. Pseudopulex reaches a prime feeding spot, maybe near the groin, maybe the armpit, where blood vessels run close to the surface. It locks its claws into position. Bristles dig in. The creature is now anchored to its host, like a biological barnacle, and then it bites. The serrated proboscis pierces the skin. The teeth saw through the epidermis, the dermis. Blood vessels rupture, and Pseudopulex begins to drink. The dinosaur shifts in its sleep, maybe scratches lazily at the itch. But Pseudopulex is flat-armored, locked in. It does not budge. The feeding continues. 15 times the volume of a modern flea. For a creature this size, that's a marathon meal. It drinks and drinks until its abdomen swells like a water balloon. And then when it's done, it just hangs out. Because here's the thing, modern fleas are hit-and-run parasites, and they jump on feed, fast, jump off. But Pseudopulex could not jump, so why bother leaving? Scientists suspect these things might have been semi-permanent residents, latching onto a host and staying there for days, maybe weeks, feeding multiple times like the world's worst houseguest. So the million-dollar question, what did Pseudopulex actually feed on? Here's the frustrating answer. We do not know for sure. We've never found a Pseudopulex fossil in situ, meaning attached to a host. Every specimen we have is just the insect itself, preserved alone. So everything we are about to discuss is educated guesswork based on context clues. First, Pseudopulex lived during the mid-Jurassic through the early Cretaceous. That's prime dinosaur real estate. No mammals yet, no birds, just dinosaurs and pterosaurs everywhere. Second, remember this thing was huge for a flea. That oversized mouth was not built for sipping from a mouse. It was built for penetrating thick hide, the kind of hide you'd find on a dinosaur. Third, those long curved claws designed to hook over scales. Yeah, dinosaurs had scales. Pterosaurs had weird bumpy skin. The biomechanics line up. So the leading theory is that Pseudopulex fed on feathered dinosaurs and possibly pterosaurs. Think small to mid-sized theropods. Things with feathers that Pseudopulex could navigate through. Maybe early birds. Maybe juvenile sauropods before their skin got too thick. But here's the wild part. We do not actually have chemical evidence of blood feeding. No hemi residue. No hemoglobin traces. Just morphology, a pointy mouth and a fat belly, and scientists going, yeah, this looks like a vampire. Some researchers like Katharina Dittmar pushed back hard on this. She basically said, hold up. A pointy mouth and a swollen gut do not automatically mean blood feeder. That's a logical fallacy. Because you know what else has a piercing proboscis? Insects that drink tree sap. Insects that feed on other insects' bodily fluids. Hell, maybe Pseudopulex was tapping into dinosaur lymph fluid instead of blood. We assume blood because it's the scariest option. But nature does not care about our narrative preferences. Now, let's talk about the absolute mess that is Pseudopulex's family tree. Because scientists could not even agree on what this thing is. When Pseudopulex was first described, researchers like Gao and Huang were like, yep, this is a flea, case closed. They pointed to the piercing mouthparts, the ectoparasitic lifestyle, the sensory structures near the rear called a pygidium, all hallmarks of the flea order Siphonaptera. Their argument, Pseudopulex, is either an early flea or part of the stem group, the evolutionary branch that eventually led to modern fleas. But then other scientists, Dittmar, Rasnitzin, rolled up and said, not so fast. Their counter-argument, Pseudopulex, is missing a critical flea feature, the chitonidium. That's the row of comb-like spines modern fleas use to anchor into fur and feathers. Pseudopulex did not have that. It had bristles, sure, but not the specialized combs. More importantly, when you run genetic and morphological analyses, Pseudopulex does not cluster neatly with true fleas. It clusters with Mecoptera, the scorpion flies, a totally different order of insects. So according to Team Mecoptera, Pseudopulex is not a flea ancestor at all. It's a weird extinct offshoot of scorpion flies that independently evolved a parasitic lifestyle. Convergent evolution, nature's favorite prank. This means Pseudopulex might be a dead-end branch, an evolutionary experiment that worked great for 40 million years and then got deleted from the server when its dinosaur hosts went extinct. And here's where it gets even messier. Modern fleas based on genetic data probably did not evolve until the late Cretaceous or even the Paleogene around the same time mammals diversified. Which means if Pseudopulex is not a true flea, it's just something flea-shaped that existed way before actual fleas showed up. It's like finding a bird-shaped dinosaur and then finding out it's not related to birds at all. Just coincidentally bird-shaped because flight is really useful. Evolution does not care about your feelings or your taxonomy textbooks. All right, time for my favorite part of any extinct animal story, the stuff we do not know. Because for all the cool facts we've covered, there are gaping holes in our understanding of Pseudopulex. And honestly, the unknowns make it scarier. The larvae. We've never found a single Pseudopulex larva. Not one. Modern flea larvae live in the nests and burrows of their hosts, little worm-like things that eat debris and feces. But Pseudopulex larvae ghost mode. There's a possibility they were aquatic. Maybe they lived in ponds or streams like the larvae of some modern parasitic insects. There was a whole drama in the 2000s where scientists thought they had found a Jurassic flea larva, a creature called Strashula, only to realize later it was actually the larva of a primitive fly. Whoops. So either Pseudopulex larvae are hiding in some undiscovered fossilized mud somewhere, or they decayed too fast to preserve. Either way, we have no idea what baby Pseudopulex looked like or where it grew up. The shoulder glands. On the species Pseudopulex tanlin, there are these 4 oval-shaped structures right behind the head. Nobody knows what they are. Glands, sensory organs, tiny rage receptors. Your guess is as good as a paleontologist's. They're just there. Symmetrical. Weird. Unexplained. The smoking gun nope. Every Pseudopulex fossil is solo. We've never found one preserved mid-feeding latched onto a host. So technically everything we've said about dinosaur parasitism is inference. Strong inference, sure, but still a guess. For all we know, Pseudopulex could have been feeding on giant millipedes, or extinct amphibians, or something completely off our radar. But where's the fun in that? We are going with dinosaurs. So what happened to Pseudopulex? The last known fossils date to the early Cretaceous, around 125 million years ago. After that, radio silence. They did not make it to the KPG extinction. They were already gone by the time the asteroid hit. And honestly, we do not know exactly why. The prevailing theory is that Pseudopulex was a specialist. It evolved to exploit a very specific niche feathered dinosaurs and pterosaurs with a particular skin type, body size, and behavior. But evolution is a fickle mistress. Dinosaurs kept evolving. Feathers became more complex. Skin got thicker. Behaviors changed. And at some point, Pseudopulex's toolkit, those long claws, that flat body, that drilling mouth, stopped being effective. Maybe their hosts evolved better grooming behaviors. Maybe competing parasites outcompeted them. Maybe climate shifts disrupted their larvae's habitat. We do not know. What we do know is that by the mid-Cretaceous, Pseudopulex was gone. Meanwhile, smaller, jumpier, more adaptable parasites survived. And eventually, those lineages gave rise to modern fleas, tiny, fast, and damn near impossible to kill. Pseudopulex was the tank build in a meta that favored speed, and nature patched it out. But here's the thing that keeps me up at night. For 40 million years, Pseudopulex was a dominant ectoparasite. 40 million years. Humans have only been around for like 300,000 years, and we think we are hot stuff. Pseudopulex was out there thugging it out on dinosaurs for longer than T-Rex even existed. And then it vanished. No descendants, no modern relatives, just fossils and questions. Evolution does not give you a trophy for showing up. It does not care how long you lasted or how well you adapted. One day, you are the apex parasite of the Mesozoic. The next, you are a curiosity in a Chinese rock formation, and a bunch of hairless apes are arguing about whether you were even a real flea. That's the deal. You either evolve or you get deleted. No save points, no respawn. Pseudopulex chose the tank build, and for 40 million years, it worked. But the meta shifted, and the game moved on. So, yeah, Pseudopulex, the flea that could not jump, the vampire that maybe was not a vampire. The evolutionary mystery wrapped in a Jurassic enigma, a monster hiding in the shadow of bigger monsters. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into Paleo Nightmare Fuel, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what extinct horror you want covered next. Until next time, stay curious. And maybe check your pets for fleas. Because if Pseudopulex taught us anything, it's that the smallest predators are often the scariest ones.